You've been through some shit.
I just seen all these flashing lights. They threw me on the ground, pointing guns at me. My kids were awake at that time. I didn't have a criminal record. I'd never been to jail. I didn't do anything wrong.
What were they like, from what you know?
I got sort of like a memory loss. The abuse that happened with me at the age of 8.
What does that do to a person?
I went into a real dark space. My mum was sick. 2 of my kids wanted to take their life. I wanted to take my life. Detention is worse than prison. I've been asked by someone, can you help me kill myself?
Someone setting themselves on fire.
He took his life.
What did stop you from taking your own life?
My daughter.
Tepuia, welcome to my podcast.
Kia ora, Dom, thanks for having me.
Mate, it's great to meet you and have you here in my podcast studio.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. It's been a bit of a mission to get here, but we're here and we're doing it, and thanks for having us here.
Do you mean a mission to get here as in the journey from picking up the rental car at the airport to here, or you mean like the last 10, 15 years?
Nah, the rental car, eh? Far out.
We'll get into your whole... The rental car is nothing compared to like the last 10, 20 years of your life. You've been through some shit.
Yep. Yeah, no, I have, so, yeah.
Finish the sentence for me. I'm not a 501, I am...
I'm a youth worker, I'm a survivor, and, you know, we talk about people on social media about being influencers and stuff like that. For me, you know, I want to create that space for change makers. You know, the change makers are the people that make changes in their life and help others as well. So I like to, you know, be that person in my community to be a change maker. You know, I don't look at myself as an influencer or a mentor. You know, I'm a qualified youth worker now, and I just make changes in my community and wherever I can to help, especially our rangatahi. So, yeah, that's me.
That's just scratching the surface. Yeah. Dad of 7 as well?
Yep. Dad of 7.
Is that all we know about?
Yes, I'm a dad of 7. I have 5 grandkids now. I've 4 boys, 1 girl. My kids, I have 6 girls, 1 boy. When we have that boy, we always think, yeah, daddy's boy, but he's not. He's mummy's boy. So I've got the girls. So yeah, yep.
What do people misunderstand most about the 501 label?
Man, everyone thinks 501s are the baddest of the baddest. You know, there's all sorts of 501s, man. There's all sorts of 501s that are coming through. You know, I see a 501 as, you know, getting deported. You know, we heard in the media about, you know, we're the worst of the worst, we're just trash, we're this and that, but, you know, it's not all that, you know. We've all got different stories, you know. We all come from different walks of life and stuff like that. So when you're actually in the system, when you're fighting your case, and you see who's who and why and who gets their visas back, it's all up and down. It's not all the same thing. So yeah, you know, 501 is we've been labelled as a gang, you know, 501 gang. There's no 501 gang. You know, it's just a label that we have.
What does that label feel like when it's attached to you personally?
For me, it's part of my story. You know, I've got a lot of brothers out there that they don't want to talk about being a 501. They don't think themselves, even when they've changed their lives. But for me, every talk I have, you know, it's just part of my story of where I am today. Like I say, I've walked my journey's a little bit different to some of the other 501s. You know, but like I say, it's we are labelled, you know, being criminals, being the baddest of the baddest and stuff like that. And I've met a few 501s that aren't like that, you know. So, you know, getting sent home for, you know, minor offences and not even any. So, yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get into the story because you got sent home just for what's the term? It's like questionable character, or
Yeah, they call it the character grounds. I was actually on. Some of us were on. There was a 501 or a 503. 503 is to do with secret information. How do we get secret information? The government don't want to give it to us because then they're giving away their so-called secret. I don't know what their secret information was. That I was in an outlaw motorcycle club or what. But for me, part of my story is that I got done for association. I didn't have a criminal record. I had Australian kids, and I'd never been to jail. But I went to jail when they deported me, and I ended up in there for 6 months. So all in up, I was fighting my case for 22 months for pretty much a character ground where, I didn't, by law, it's, you didn't have a serious criminal record or never spent more than 12 months in jail, and that was back in 2015. So, and a lot of things have changed there, but it's ridiculous how they are sending people back to New Zealand. And and part of my journey too is sitting there fighting my case, and everyone says, yeah, but you're a bikie, you should have got sent home ages ago, this and that, but end of the day I didn't do anything wrong, and you put me in jail for it, for not doing anything wrong, Yeah,
it's a wild story, and just to hook people in now, cause we're gonna go through this path in chronological order. But your time as a free man in Australia ended with you just driving to work at 7 o'clock in the morning one morning and getting pulled over by a bunch of cops and being thrown in jail just on your way to work as a carpet layer.
Yeah, and
it's crazy.
It was crazy, and I was sort of watching, a couple other brothers that were getting pulled in, and those brothers were, they'd done their time, they'd been out of trouble for quite a while, and then it was a couple of nights before I got pulled up. Another one of our close brothers, he served in the army, and when he got pulled in, he was sort of the same boat as me. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm thinking, my mind's going, it's like, oh, am I going to be next? But I didn't think that because I didn't have a criminal record, never been to jail, so I just lived life normal. And then, the 2nd of November, I think it was, Monday morning. And it was actually the thing because I was actually on the phone talking to my mate's partner and just making sure, if she's okay, if their family okay and stuff like that. And then, man, I just seen all these lights go off. Didn't hear no noise or anything, just looked in the rearview mirror, and I just seen all these flashing lights, and I just knew that something's up, and you just got swarmed by them.
I mean, 2 years of losing your freedom before being deported back to New Zealand. Does the government here in New Zealand need to be doing more?
Yeah, they do.
Like what?
Like when 2015 is when it started building. They started doing decoys and stuff like that. People started getting out there and talking about it. I met some people that come and visit me over in Albany prison. They were about to do a walk around Australia. I think what's his name, Calvin Davis was there, and having those conversations on why are we getting deported? Why, And honestly, man, there was a certain person in power. For me, I looked at it as, he's in power now. He just wants to be a bully. He wants to have authority and stuff like that. And for us to have the conversations on 501s, I've met so many different people that have done different sort of crimes. But when you sit in a detention centre and for association, and you see all these people getting their visas back. I've seen a couple of people getting it 3 or 4 times in and out of detention. Here I am sitting here going, man, what have I done wrong? Association, yeah, okay. But like I haven't done a crime, you know. And a lot of the other boys in there have changed their lives, you know. But I've just seen these fellas with, you know, with records that should have been deported. I'm not being thing or anything, but they're free, you know. They get a second chance in life, you know. And there were 6 of us, you know, and for me to sit there, and I couldn't go up on the board, you know, in front of the panel. I had to go to the highest, the High Court, and I had to sit there and just wait. Even our lawyers, you know, we had the best lawyers in Australia to do the court case, and even they were just like, man, what do we do? You know, what's the answer? So, yeah, it was hard, and it is hard to see. You know, it's hard to see people that live most of their life in Australia getting deported. You know, when other people get second chances and have that option, some of us don't get that.
Since 2014, there's 3,000 Kiwis that have been deported from Australia as 501s, and around half of them have gone on to reoffend back in New Zealand. Why do you think that is, and why are you on the good side of that 50%?
A lot of these people come home to nothing. They don't know anyone, you know. Their family's over there, you know. What are they coming back to? Coming back to, what, $250 and a weeks of, you know, in a hotel. What's going to happen after that? You know, I'm not going to sit here and talk on behalf of everyone, but for me, I come home. I haven't been home for a while. Obviously, I had the club, but I had heaps of family here. You know, I had a plan of what I was going to do, and how I was going to do it. But it was just hard leaving my family back there to come back and sort my stuff here. You know. Yeah, it's hard for our people, you know. We've got to stop blaming, the clubs and the gangs for picking these people up. They've got nothing else to do. What are they going to do? You know, live on the street, be homeless, you know. That's probably the people they're going to go to, you know. But for me, you know, I had to make changes. But like I say, I come home, but I was still in the club, you know. So that was just part of, you know, where I had to go when I come home. So, yeah.
Well, you know, I know shit about I know nothing about any of this. All I know is like the shit I see on TV.
Yeah.
But I'm gathering like it's if they've been loyal to you and you see them as a brotherhood, it's hard to turn your back on them. Then they've been there for you when no one else was.
Yeah, and you know, my journey away from the club, you know, I leave that behind. I don't talk about it. You know, I respect that, you know, because that was my world. You know, this is my world now as a youth worker. I talk about it in times with my talks and that. I don't go out and say I'm this and that, and I used to be blah, 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 because that's not me. I respect that, and stuff like that. So for me, you know, it was hard because they did help me out. They were there for my family. They were there for me. There was a reason why I fought it, because it doesn't matter, you know, what you were or who you are. You know, you put me in a system where I didn't do anything wrong, because some person that got the power to just deport any person they want. And you look at most of them were Kiwis and that, but most of them were Pacific Islanders. Most of them were Māoris. You know, most of them were old and that have changed their lives around. You know, and just still get sent back home, you know. Not in the options of, hey, you know, can we have another shot at it? And like we say, like, if you get another crack at it, take it, you know. Don't ruin it and say, okay, you know, you're going to get into trouble again. Take that and make the changes you have to, but some of us didn't get that opportunity.
What does the word redemption mean to you?
Redemption.
It's a very romantic word, eh?
Yeah, it is. It's hard. Redemption is hard, man.
Hard to get or hard to be given by other people?
Hard to make redemption, you know, to get there, because of all the roadblocks, the stuff we go through, you know, especially as a club member that's all I knew over in Aussie, and coming home, you know, I'm coming home in the club, I'm coming home to trauma. I'm coming home to my kids I haven't seen for a while. I'm coming home to being all over the news for why I was deported and stuff like that. So when you come home and you haven't sorted your shit out, and my shit was my trauma. So I went, I'm from Blenheim, so I went back to Blenheim and had so much going on mental health. My mum was sick, two of my kids, wanted to take their life, I wanted to take my life. Club was me, but it was different. I was used to my brothers over in Aussie and stuff like that, and most of them lived away from me, either Auckland or Christchurch and that, and especially my close brothers, they were in Auckland, and then I just had to go back to Blenheim and settle with my family and stuff like that, and it just kicked in. Mental health got me real bad because I went back there and blaming myself a little bit, but it was it was a pretty dark time that I went into a real dark space, mentally, and I just had to make some changes. But redemption is hard. It's not easy, but it is possible.
Because you can turn your life around, but then there's other people around you that maybe like the idea of redemption, but just won't give you a chance either.
Yeah, and it's hard to hear. People ask me, man, how did you change your life? How did you become who I am today? And I just like, man, it was a lot of hard work. When I talk about changes in my life, I left the club 2019. I've been away for a while. And I always tell people that, hey, my journey, started, nearly 7 years ago, but it didn't. It started when I was 8 years old. That's my journey of where I created where I am now, 8 years old. And we can talk about that later, about how that journey is. And that's where my journey of life started,
Okay, well, let's get into that now, the early years. There's a saying or a theory that something like 80 or 90% of a kid's brain development is done in the first 1,000 days or 3 years. What are your memories of your first 3 years? What were they like, from what you know?
Man, everyone asks me that, eh? I've got sort of like a memory loss. This is part of my trauma. I don't really remember much of my childhood. It's real hard because of the abuse that happened with me and stuff like that. And I remember moments, but I don't remember good times. I remember the shit times, the times that I got hurt and just going through the system, going through school and stuff like that. So I remember bits, and every time people want to talk about my young childhood, I just remember bits of it. And it is real hard to have those conversations because the stuff that I do now with young rangatahi and that now, I'm that little kid that I wasn't when I was younger. So
Was there any of the essential ingredients for like a young kid in New Zealand? Like was there love? Was there boundaries?
Yeah, there was love, but there was different. My trauma is sexual abuse. My trauma is, being raped when I was a young kid, and that was the age of 8. I moved to Blenheim when I think I was about 7 years old. So we sit there and what's love to us? When you've been hurt. And I didn't. People that have been through that sort of trauma, it's hard for them to do that. It's hard for them to feel love. When you're seeing, solo parent, obviously abuse, alcohol, drugs, violence, going through the system, at a young age, hating yourself. It's your fault. It's all on me. I was the problem. I was the black sheep of the family, and it was hard because I had, I looked up to my brother, you know. He was the sporty one. He was the one going to the good schools. He got to go away to boarding school, real good school. You know, my sister, she was looked after, but I was going through the school, just still, you know, the anger, the ADHD, you know, the anger issues, you know, getting in trouble with the cops and stuff like that, while everyone else I thought was, you know, had a good life. So, yeah, that's, you know, love is hard, you know. We get it from our parents, but, you know, it wasn't all the time, you know. Don't get me wrong, I love my mum. You know, my mum's not here anymore. And she done a good job. She always taught us, no matter what, thank yous and the please and the respect to our elders, and if someone, you know, if you respect someone, they should give you the respect back. So, Mum taught me that, but you know, it was hard. Yeah.
Was there a time where you resented her or were angry that she didn't do more to protect you?
Yeah, you know, we go through when we were in those in my younger life. Yeah, we say, man, you're supposed to protect me. You know, when it was supposed to be a close family friend that looked after us. You know, it's those moments where, man, you know, but I knew my mum loved me, you know, and stuff like that. And when you know, you get brought up and don't get me wrong, I love my dad. My dad, I've got a real good relationship with my dad now, and having him not around, you know, was real hard. Who do I talk to? You know, back in those days, I didn't have a social worker, if that's what you call it. I didn't have a youth worker or a mentor or stuff like that where I can just go and say, hey man, you know, what I got was, yeah, you go to counselling, but the counsellor you're going to see is a male. And I was like, well, I couldn't see a male because the male was the one that hurt me. You know, so how the hell am I going to go see a male counsellor when, you know, the perpetrator was one, you know?
Yeah, mistrust males.
Mistrust, yeah, males. And every time I got someone who was a male, it's just like, man, how does that work, you know?
Mate, that's really shit. If you could go back and have a word to primary school age Lee, yeah, that scared, broken little boy, what would you say to him?
You know what I learnt, man, from a good bro of mine, a couple of bros that I do. Matt Brown's one of them. You know, we're looking at ourselves and we go, we just want to have a look and get that inner boy out of us. You know, you know, we all want this beautiful, normal life, but yeah, you know, probably going back is just like just realising and thinking to myself, fuck, it wasn't my fault.
No,
it wasn't my fault. You are loved, but yeah, it wasn't your fault, and I should have got more wraparounds and more stuff. But when you're coming out of a place, you know, solo parent and the violence and the alcohol and all that going through the house and no food, you know, stuff like that, it's, you know, it is hard to look at that and say, hey, you know, look at yourself and go, yeah, and that question that asked, so it is hard. Yeah.
As the great Matt Brown says, the shame is not yours to carry.
Yeah, you know, and having the work I've done in the last 6 years has helped me. You know, I get professional help now. I used to be that person that, man, you go see a counsellor, you know, they just want to sit there, tick the boxes off. And I'm actually lucky that I have a good counsellor. I've been seeing her for nearly 6 years now. She was with me while I was in the club. And I reached out and had to do all that sort of stuff. So opening those there and unravelling and unmasking all those stuff, you know, and unmasking is getting off, you know, the drinking, the drugs, sitting in the dark alone, you know, mental health, depression, you know. I do have, you know, we all talk about depression and mental health. I have serious depression, I have serious PTSD, bit of anxiety and stuff like that, but I know how to control it. You know, for me now, I tried medication. I don't need to be on medication for that sort of stuff. My medication is see my rangatahi, my youth, the men, the people helping my community, making the changes and seeing the changes and what they're doing. That fills me up. That fills my cup up, you know. When it goes empty, you know, I look back on stuff and look at the stuff that I have done and made changes. So, yeah.
Is that a better high than any drug?
Yeah. You know, it's there forever. You know, we use the alcohol and the drugs to mask everything, to take everything away, take the pain away. You know, and it doesn't work. You know, we get off the drugs and the drinking, and we're just back into that same cycle. Wake up again. The same shit's going to happen
Rinse
again.
and repeat.
Yeah, you know, so you've got to really look inside yourself and work hard on it, you know, and that's what I've done. And, you know, and when I sit there and I look where I am today, all it was, man, is looking in the mirror and saying to myself that that I love myself, that I am, you know, I have a purpose, you know, and for me, part of the journey I've seen now is I found my purpose. I always thought I was going to go down that track of, you know, being brought up in that world of, you know, drugs, alcohol, violence and stuff like that, okay, we're going to go down the road of joining a gang or a motorcycle club. I just found the right people over in Australia that I really got close to and found that brotherhood and stuff like that, and that's where I went. And I always thought I was going to be that, but coming home and unravelling and unmasking all that stuff and traumas and stuff that I was going through, that actually there is another purpose for me, you know.
Did you ever have dreams as a little boy? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up? I'm just curious because again, I know shit. I know nothing about anything, but what I do know.
Weird dreams,
when you're raised in a normal environment, a normal, healthy.
People going to laugh at this because I went to school. You know, a couple of things I do remember is I went to school, and I think it might have been 9, 10, and I don't know. I watched. I think it was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And old mate the butler, I don't know what it was. It's like, that fella's a cool dude, man. Fellas, you know, rich mansion, you know, hey, looks flashed, you know.
Yeah.
That's where the money's at, eh? You know. And I was just like, oh, a butler, that sounds pretty cool. And I don't talk about that much. And I'm like, I had it for a while, bro. I'm like, oh, yeah? That's where the money's at. And then, got over that phase. And, you know, the truth behind the people thing is, you know, the options down the track was to be a police officer. You know, it was. But until, you know, I was a certain age, man, 12, 13, when my dad got in trouble with them and they called him the N-word and stuff like that, and I just looked at police as, you know, racist people, and and then I just thought, okay, well, I'm not going to ever be a policeman, so I ended up being a kapele, really. So that was my career and where I was.
What was your relationship like with drugs and alcohol? When did it begin? I'm just curious because it seems like, from what I know about you, and we'll get through all of this, but it seems like you had full-time jobs and hard manual labour through most of your life. You can't have a massive drug or alcohol habit and maintain a job like that.
Yeah, you know, when I'm out there talking about my talk, so I'm opening up more a bit about the alcohol, the drugs. You know, when we have conversations with our kids and what they're doing and stuff like that, I always sit in that space where everything I talk about, and I hear from my rangatahi that I've got to be true to myself, you know, because they ask the questions. And alcohol, man, was massive. Like, alcohol was that was me, drinking all the time. COVID was real bad. COVID was like I got real deep into alcohol. And drugs as well, you know. We can sit here and people will look at you and go, oh, you're a gang member and, you know, that's all you fellas do and this and that. Everything that I'd done was me, you know. No one told me to do this and that, and I can hardly put my heart on there that everything I'd done was for me. It wasn't for anyone else, you know. And the drug thing, you know, my drug of choice was cocaine, you know, and it's probably the first time today that I've actually opened about my habit, and my habit was real bad. You know, I've been away that lifestyle for 7 years now, and I don't do any more drugs or anything like that, but it was a masking thing for me. You know, you wouldn't know that I was on that. You know, I hid it quite well, but it was a big issue for me, and mixing that with the alcohol as well. So, that was the drug choice for me, and you know, it was hard to clean myself up, but I've been clean for so long, and it's just doesn't come onto my mind about actually, you know, taking any more, and, you know, putting yourself back into situations as well, is when you know that, hey, you know, if you're around that sort of thing, you know that you can get out of that stuff, you know, not being around it. So, yeah.
It's an expensive drug. There's probably a lot of very well-to-do people listening to this podcast or watching it right now that have a bag in their wallet, or maybe went to Electric Avenue last weekend with some of the same thing. Yeah,
but don't forget, this is 7 years ago.
Yeah,
you know, and I made the choice when I left, and I wanted to make changes in my life. I had to make the changes. You know, drinking. You know, my drinking, you know, because a lot of people know who I am in town, and when I go out, I drink to socialise now. I don't drink to go out there and get wasted and look like a fool and, you know, and fool around everywhere, because, you know, that's not me anymore, you know. So, and when I'm out, the conversations I have is usually about men's mental health, you know, coming down to the boxing gym and stuff like that, all my youth, and doing stuff in the community, so I don't, you know, have to be out there now and just getting that wasted that I can't remember the next day. So I'm not here to tell people that, hey, I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to I'll socialise now and I can control it. So, yeah.
Well, it seems like you've created a life that you actually enjoy living in, rather than a life that you want to escape from.
Yeah, I was escaping life for a while, you know, and
is that what cocaine and alcohol gave you? An escape?
Escape. Masking takes everything away, you know. It's just like this place we're in, man, and it's just like, man, we don't care. You know, life's cool, life's easy, but when it starts wearing off, hey, we're back again. Hey, the thoughts are coming, you know, because we're hiding it, we're masking it. You know, and
you can never outrun yourself either.
Nah, you
Is
know,
that saying wherever you go, there you are?
Yeah, you know. So, yeah.
So, hey, well, thanks for being open about that stuff. Yeah. So, 2005, you moved to Australia.
Yep.
What was it that pulled you there?
Family. I was going to go to Brisbane, and I thought, go to Brisbane, and then people messaging me, and they're from Blenheim. I'm like, man, I want to move away from Blenheim, not to be around Blenheim, you know. I just want a new start, like all my mates live there. It's like, come up to Brisbane. I was like, bro, but you lived in Blenheim, and yeah, so I thought moving to Perth, you know, would be the place to go to, and, you know, went there quietly, and yeah, it took me ages to meet some boys from Blenheim, and then next minute, you know, all these fellas are like, hey bro, here you go, who's doing Perth now, this and that. So, and I think it was more work as well. Like over here, I was just finished my apprenticeship for Kapolea. I'd done security work down in Christchurch, which wasn't good money, working 2 jobs, had young kids to my wife, and just had to, you know, $20 at the end of the week, it's not going to cut it. So we just thought, hey, let's go to Aussie, give the mines a go. Went over there, had a look at the mines. Took me ages, couldn't even get in there, so I thought I'll give Kapolea a go, and just started contracting and made some pretty good money, you know, with Kapolea over there. So
the facial tattoos, did you have them prior to moving to Aussie, or you got them over there?
I got them over there. Oh, yeah, got most of mine. Yeah.
So it was over in Australia that you connected with the Rebels Motorcycle Club. What? Yep. So you're working full time as a carpet layer. You got a young family. Why was that not enough? Why did you need something else?
Oh, I don't know. Just met certain people. You know, when you're brought up in the life that some of us have, you know, you find a connection. You know, why are we moving into in that direction? You know, and I just seen this brotherhood. Met a couple of fellas. You know, the first fellow I met, he had face tats, and he just said, hey, you know, you want to come down for a beer and stuff like that, and it just went from there, eh? And that wasn't, so I moved there 2005. That wasn't until 2010, 2011. You know, so when I met these boys, yeah.
What did your partner say? Was she stoked about it?
Nah, she wasn't, man. She, you know, it wasn't like I was living two separate lives, but yeah, it was my choice, you know. I made that choice, you know, so, and my kids, you know, to my wife, we're young, so, yeah, it was a choice that I made, so, yeah, I just seen brotherhood, I seen, I can connect to these fellas and stuff like that, so, yeah, I just done it, I just, yeah, went there, joined up, and, yeah.
From what I can gather from listening to previous podcasts you've been on, you don't really like talking about this part of your life too much. But, I mean, we can be as open or as shut about it as you want, but I just feel incredibly naive about this. Like, as I said earlier, all I know is like what I see on, what I'm fed on mainstream media and on the news. But are you guys out there just like selling drugs to kids and ripping people off? No. Are you all bad?
No, we're not all bad, you know. Businessmen, you know, people are doing, you know, what they are doing and surviving, you know, doing things for their family. You know, we always have these conversations about gang members, this and that, they're all bad people, but okay, what happens when the government goes bad? What happens when a police officer goes bad? What happens when our teachers hurt our kids? Are they all bad people? No, they're not. You know, the media looks at it too. Like, I notice in Australia when, you know, things are going all right over there, but once shit happens bad with the government or the news media or something over there, who do they, you know, mask all their stories up with? Oh yeah, gang members, you know, they're doing this, the bikies are doing this and that, to take the focus away from what they're doing, you know. So I'm not going to sit here and say that every single gang member is good, because that's just bullshitting you, because, you know, not all gang members are, you know. But what I do know is that there are a lot of them making changes, you know. There are a lot of them doing good, you know. So we can't sit there and just say that, because don't forget, like we say, these people in the suits and the ties and that are doing bad stuff, you know. So we can't just, you know, focus on one group, you know. So, yeah.
So illegal or antisocial behaviour, it's not like applauded or encouraged in that environment?
No. Yeah. You know.
So if one of the brothers like messes up, like the rest of you...
These, you know, we can sit here and talk about club life all day long, and, you know, there's a law for certain people and there's a law for other people, you know. And I'm not going to go into that, because there's all different. They have their own different rules and different laws and what they do, you know. And like I say, you know, for me, the club looked after me, you know. They looked after my family. You know, this was a decision that I had to make, a decision to sit there and say, you know, I give 100%. I couldn't give 100% to them, because my mental health, the darkness that I was in, my mental health, my mum, my kids, I had to put everything first. I had to put me first, you know, this time. And I had to do it, and I had to take that away so I can, you know, focus on me and my family and get me better, because I was in a real bad place. Yeah. When people message you and you're not answering your phone, and it's for brothers that are caring for you, you know, I was real good at doing that, like answering the brothers and that. But I was in this dark place, man. I was in this place where, man, I can't deal with life at the moment. I can't be the brother that I used to be and give the brothers 100%, you know. And that's what I've always believed in. You do it 100%, you know. And I'm always thankful for those brothers that were there for me, and some of them are still here for me to this day, you know, that they message me and say, hey bro, we like what you're doing for our youth and our rangatahi, you know, and made some big changes, you know. And I can sit here and say, I know all different walks of life, you know. I don't sit there and talk, you know, what other people do and stuff like that, you know. I talk about change, and I talk about, you know. If you want to be in, and you want to be in a gang, you don't want to be in a gang, that's cool. I'm not there to tell you, you know, it's a bad thing. Don't go down that track, because I know people are making some massive changes, you know. That's not me anymore. You know, my focus is on, if people want to make changes, yeah, we can make changes. We can make positive changes, you know, and still do what you're doing, but do positive stuff, you know. You know, and looking after our family and our kids.
Had you gone to Australia and never joined the rebels, none of this would have happened, the 501 stuff, the incarceration. With that in mind, do you regret joining?
No, I don't. No, I don't. You know? Sometimes I blame myself for it. Yeah, I got myself into it. But I look at it and go, man, I didn't do anything wrong. What did I do wrong? I associated with some brothers, you know. I didn't do a crime. I didn't do jail, you know. I understand, yeah. And some of the boys that I was locked up with, they'd done their time. They'd done their time, you know. The club changed them, you know. I had one brother, before he was in the club, he was a drug addict, you know, and it cleaned him right up. He's back here in New Zealand doing some good stuff, you know. When we sit there and people ask me, you know, did I regret it? And I don't, because that was part of my journey and where I was going, especially with the traumas and the people that I was connected to, you know. But when,
so would you say, like, it gave you more than it took away ultimately?
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, coming home and sorting out my own stuff, man, you know, realising that, okay, that is part of my journey. That's why I went down that track, because I didn't have the life that every other person had, the good life that people had, you know.
I had do you remember Brad Thorne? You know, All Black hard man, Broncos star, very religious man. I had him on the podcast, sitting in the same chair as you actually a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about finding God and finding his partner, and the phrase he used was he had to get his house in order. And I really like that, and I think I mean, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this or watching this that'll be very quick to judge. But we've all got rooms in our own internal houses that we need to get in order.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's perfect, right?
No one's perfect. Yeah. You know, honestly, man, if you sit there, and I tell a lot of our men that I talk to that there's no perfect family. You know, there's no person that can sit there and go, oh, yeah, I've got the perfect family, because there is something in there that, you know, that you have done. And a lot of people ask me the question too, you know, because there's a few of our 501 brothers and the change makers, you know, have turned to the Lord, you know. That's their thing, and a lot of the brothers I hang around, they've gone that way. But for me, you know, I didn't need to go down that way, you know. I made the changes for me and who I am, you know.
Whatever helps, eh?
Yeah. Whatever helps, you know.
If it brings you peace.
Yeah.
I've noticed you've got the cross tattoo.
Yeah, that's my mum. That's for my mum. Yeah, that's for my mum. You know, my mum passed away 5 years ago. She, you know, I had a good relationship with my mum. I wish she was still here to actually see, you know, where I am today, what I've created, you know, especially the boxing gym. Man, that's a massive thing for me. And that saved my life, you know.
Yeah, this is such a cool part of your story. We haven't even got to... I'm just working through some stuff, and we're going to get to the good stuff. It's like we're eating the vegetables, then we'll get to the steak and the dessert. Is it... Yeah, how is it reflecting on this stuff? Like, there's some crunchy stuff, and we've still got some crunchy stuff to get to. Is it unpleasant to revisit? Like in a long-form chat like this?
No, it's not. It's good. It helps me.
Yeah?
You know, it helps me where I am today. You know, it shows me on my journey where I'm at, that, you know, we make mistakes, we do shit things, you know, and my mate, you know, that you know, I'm up here with being a youth worker, you know, Maxine, she said to me, and we always have a conversation about, we do shit things, but we're not shit people, we're not shit humans, you know, and when people do make mistakes and do those little fuck ups, you know, we're not shit people, you know. So we've got to really look at that and go, actually, you know, how do we fix it? How do we change it? You know, so, and I think that brings a lot of our people down too, thinking that we've done something wrong. Hey, we look at it going, man, I must have been a shit person. you know. But we weren't shit people. We were just going through stuff, you know.
You also, you had a really shit start in life. You've got to cut yourself some slack, eh?
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing now, you know. And it wasn't for my good mate, Sam. So if you don't know Sam, he's from Road to Healing, Aotearoa. He's walked the country. I met him 2-3 years ago. Watched his podcast, watched him live. He's, you know, I've biked to Nelson with him. I've done some walking with him, and the bike ride, man. Like honestly, man, I met him and I said, hey, bro, I really want to jump on this bike ride with you. We just started chatting. I met him in real life, and we hung out for 4 days. And he was like super ADHD, 1,000. He is the voice of our sexual violence, our people that have been sexually abused and stuff like that. Man, when you meet that fella, man, I met him, come off the plane, picked him up, man, and he was just like, like, you know, he's an ex-addict and stuff like that. I'm like, man, this guy, bro, you still on it or what? Are you still think, bro? He goes, no, you know, man was out there. And I took him out and he was, bro, he's the barrel rider, you know, he's just like, but his wairua, his passion, and man, honestly, since I was 8 years old, you know, to when I was 42, you know, when I actually opened up more about my abuse, it was him. It was him I had to think and say, hey, bro, thank you. I'm a survivor now. I'm not that victim. I'm not that young boy that was a victim. And because of you, bro, I'm a survivor now. And we biked up the Nelson, ripped up the whangamoas, bro, and honestly, we had the electric bikes. And honestly, man, like, went up there, it was raining. I was about to give up. He was just going, come on, bro, come on, we're nearly there, we're nearly up the top, we're nearly around the corner. I'm like, bro, you never biked these mountains before, you don't know where the corner is. I know where the top of the hill is. And he's just going, bro, we're the elite, no one else is going to do this, no one else is going to push you, bro. You know, you're a survivor, bro, you're going to get to the top of the hill and we're going to make it, bro, because no one else is going to do this except us, you know. And he just biked past me. He was behind me. He biked past me, and here he is, ADHD at the gate, and he's vaping, blowing all this vape, making motorbike sounds. And he goes, brother, I got you, you're a survivor. It's just around the corner. I said, bro, like I said, you don't know where the corner is. And I knew where the corner was. But I got up there, and he gave me this massive hug, bro. And I said, you done it, bro. You nearly gave up, but you went through it. And I just want to tell you, brother, that, you know, you come on this ride, I've known you for 4 days and now you're just a survivor, bro. You're a survivor of sexual abuse, and I'll never, you know, I'm just grateful that he's come into my life, you know, that he is a voice for our people and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, as you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so November 2015, you've been in Australia at 10 years by this point.
Yep.
Working as a carpet layer, raising your family, but in your weekends, this extracurricular activity with the Rebels Motorcycle Club. I'm guessing you did some illegal shit and you just didn't get caught? Some cocaine? You had some gear, perhaps? No,
I'm just cocaine. I'm strictly that, and that's it, you know.
Right, but I'm not minimising that because it's an illegal thing. But there's like a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of people at Electric Avenue last weekend, doing cocaine or ketamine or whatever. So, I mean, it's I feel like that's more of a health issue than a crime issue, as long as you're not dealing. Yeah,
and the thing is that when you got someone that's sitting up there that's been a bully, that's had a background of corruption, and all of a sudden all these Kiwis get kicked out of Australia and he's nowhere to be seen now, it's like, man, when does this stop? You know, when does this, you know, when do the changes, you know, happen, you know? And I am seeing changes, you know, I'm seeing changes over there that, okay, there are people getting their visas back, there are people getting a second chance and opportunity. And you know, I talked to a couple of 501s on online and stuff like that because they allow phones and that in there now, so you can have conversations
and
detention. We weren't allowed them back then, you know. and you sit there and you know, they're live streaming and you're seeing the way they're getting treated and stuff like that, and how much they've got to go through to get their visas back. You know, I've seen a couple of my mates get their visas back, and I'm happy for them. You know, but why do they get it back and then another person doesn't? You know, where's the consistency? That's what we're looking for, consistency. You know, back then, Christmas Island was, man, I seen the G's come back, the OGs, you know, coming back that have done some massive lags and coming back from Christmas Island, man, broken. The way they got treated, you know, and I actually caught off the boys that were in the first ride over there, and a couple of my good mates now, and that's when I got locked up just after they'd done the ride over in Christmas Island, and I met those boys, and there was reasons why they'd done it, because the way they got treated over there. You know, you put our we sit there, you know, Christmas Island wasn't built for Kiwis, it was built for refugees. You know, and as bad as it sounds, the refugees were in mainstream, you know, like Sydney, Perth, Yonge Hill and all that, those detention centres, when our Kiwis were shanghaied over to Christmas Island, treated bad, real bad, you know. It wasn't built for us, you know. Once again, you're trying to break, you know, families, because the only thing they had was visits, you know. Yeah, people over in Brisbane that are living over in, you know, Shanghai to Perth, taking away what was most they wanted was just to see their families, you know. Some of them have already done jail time, and then they're getting punished again, you know, sitting there trying to fight for their rights. Yeah,
it seems unnecessarily cruel.
Yeah.
Okay, so November 2, 2015, 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Take us through that morning.
So
you must have got up early. You're on your way to work,
yeah,
right?
on my way to work. I usually go to work around 7 o'clock, you know, traffic. And man, I was just cruising along, got about 500, you know. I'm pretty nosy, you know, but I just thought, hey, just a normal day, like, nah, cool, man, I'm not going to, you know, I got all these side streets and didn't even bother looking down them or being thing. So I just drove off. And then, yeah, like I said, I was talking to my friend's missus to make sure she was right. There was no sound, no nothing, and I just looked in the rearview mirror, I just seen lights, man, and they just come out of nowhere.
How many?
I reckon about 30, maybe. There was gang crime, immigration, the feds, normal police. You know, I got out of the car and they sort of said, stay in the car. I said, well, no, not really, because I know why he's here. And they couldn't say anything until immigration come over and hand me the paper. So they handed me the paper and said, hey, you leave Tepuia? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, we'll cancel your visa. I'm like, hey. So they handcuffed me there. They actually took me back home. So one of the cops drove my car home, and it was that moment, man, when I just had to, you know, knock on the door. Family was asleep, and just tell my wife that, yeah, they've cancelled my visa. And she knew it was up because the whole, you know, could see it on the cameras and all that in my house. So it was just covered with the police. And my kids were still asleep, you know, them being asleep, you know, yeah. And I just sort of had to say, hey, just tell them I'm at work. And yeah.
You're at work for 2 years.
Work for 2 years, working away, yeah. You know.
How was your wife? Was she pissed with you or the police?
Nah,
or
she
was
just shocked, I think. Shocked, you know. And I told her to ring certain people just to tell them, you know. Yeah, you know what was the killer thing for me, man? It was peak hour in Perth. The traffic was shit, and they put me in a cop car, like with gang crime. And they took me straight to prison, Casuarina. Like, Casuarina's down south. Like, it's for a drive from where I am, it's probably an hour and a half in the traffic. So I had to sit in there with these 4 gang crime fellas for an hour and a half, you know. And it was real hard because they didn't even know what was going on, you know. I was trying to ask them the questions, this and that, and I was like, man, you know. So nearly an hour and a half, 2 hours, and, you know, I thought I was going to the detention centre, and they said, no, you're off to Casuarina. I said, who the fuck goes to Casuarina with no criminal record? They didn't know what was going on.
And is this the first prison experience in your life?
Yeah. I'm usually visiting the boys, yeah. You know, I'm usually visiting the boys and, you know, always say, what's like on the other side of the thing? You know, always visit them and stuff like that. So I got to see the other side of it. And we didn't get put in there normally. Like, you know, I had to go through the system. They chucked me in this yard, or chucked me in this block where, you know, I was locked up for nearly 24 hours, you know, no light, no nothing, and then didn't know what was going on. It was until the next day when the other boys come in. So he knew he knew what was going on, and he said we can get our phone calls and stuff like that, and went out and then got a bit of freedom. But what the freedom was, you're in this long fucking cage, walking up and down, you know, locked up in this cage, you know, like figuring what to go. And the guards didn't know what to do with us because we weren't in there for a sentence. We were there getting deported, you know. So we had to follow the system. We had to, you know, be in the system and stuff like that. So we finally got moved into to the mainstream with the other boys, and a couple of boys already been locked up there, and even they were just like, man, everyone was just like, wow, what are you guys doing here? Why are you here? How come he's under the detention centre? We didn't have the answers, you know. So I was there for 6 months. I was only there for 6 months, man. So you know,
wait, you say only 6 months? That's half a year, bro.
Yeah.
If that was me, I'd be. Yeah. How were you compliant, or were you angry and resistant?
No, I just trying to. I was, and that's the thing. We weren't in there to play up. You know, we were there to get, you know, our visas back and let people know that, man, you're chucking people in prison for what? For getting deported. Why can't we go to the detention centre like everyone else? Or why can't we fight it outside like everyone else? You know, 2 of us didn't have criminal records. You know, all the other boys have done their time, you know, but we've known boys that have been out there with from their lawyers, they can fight it out there and stuff like that. And I ended up at Casuarina for 3 months, and then they shanghaied me down to Albany prison, and they got me a day before my wife's birthday. So my kids were coming in, just another way to break us, you know. So
Do you think it was intentional, the time?
I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning. They, you know, shanghaied me down to Albany prison, and that was 6 hours out of Perth. So I spent my last 3 months there, done that, and then they grabbed me again and said, oh, you're going to the detention centre now. And they kept me in Perth Detention Centre. Perth Detention Centre, you only allowed 30 people there, I think, 25 people there. It was just for transferring. Yeah.
Were you treated differently to other inmates because of the fact that you're not actually there for a crime?
No, we just followed the system, you know. But a lot of the other...
So no special treatment?
No special treatment, no special treatment. No. We're all on high risk as well. Like some of the high levels, and I'm like...
High risk as in risk to yourself or other inmates?
Just for the inmates, you know. It's like, how can we be high risk when we're in here for nothing? We're in here for
just because of your gang connections?
Yeah, okay. You know. And the movements that we had to go through were, you know, it was just unreal, you know.
How do you hang on to hope?
Oh, there was a reason why we done it, you know. We were showing people that, you know, even though we're in a club, you know, people have done their time, but it had changed them. But when you got a person like me that's in there, sitting in there, because of wearing a patch and hanging with the brothers, being locked up for nothing, you know, getting taken away from his family and getting locked up. A lot of people say, yeah, you're a gang member, bad luck, piss off sort of thing, but I had to fight for that, you know. I had to go. I wanted to go all the way. I didn't want to give up and say, okay, fuck, you know, because I knew that was an opportunity for us to open up some doors for other people, and it did open up doors. But then, because the government can do what they want, you know, I went all the way, went to the first appearance. Judges would say, no, we'll put it off. My lawyers, they were doing the same thing. They said, fuck, we don't know what to do. So the only place we could go to was the High Court. We had to fight the constitution of the law, and we won it. We won a court case that tells them that you're actually holding us, you know, wrongful, and holding us in prison. You know, when, well, I think it was 6-1, so 6 High Court judges deemed unconstitutional. Okay, so that means that, okay, that law that you should let us go. But who had the power? Immigration Minister. They already planned it before we even got out. They, you know, I won the court case, I got out, you know, and then straight away I got flipped over again. That's how it worked. And I was like, now you got this immigration minister has got more power than the High Court judges. How does that work?
How do you stay composed? So you win the court case, and then you get scooped up again. How do you not snap?
I was real excited because I knew it was a massive win for us. You know, and then I knew, and I can remember this day because I knew there was another court case going on. There was another court case going on with Manus Island, and the day before they just won a big massive court case over the Australian government. I thought, it's a good win, and then the next day we got a big win, and I'm thinking, okay, now the Australian government, I think they're pretty pissed at us now because they've lost 2 big court cases, and I was real excited, but it was different because every time I see someone get their visa back, say goodbye to the boys, you know, have a wash, have a feed, you know, usually about half an hour to an hour, the boys get out. I jumped in the shower, next minute I got the guards knocking on the door, well, you got to get out of the shower, you got to go get your bags, go sign out. I'm like, hey? I'm just like, wow, this is different. And then a guard comes here, oi, come grab your gear, all your gear's ready to go, let's grab your gear, go. And I knew something, man, this is different. And got there, got all my gear, went out the gate, got out the doors, had all my gear, got out the doors, and then my wife just picked me up. And just as I jump in the car, 2 immigration officers come in and go, hey, can we talk to you for a second? I was like, before he goes, can we go inside and talk? And I said, what for? He goes, we just need to talk to you inside. I said, I know why. I know what's happening. So I was just like, nah, and I go, and I said, do I have to go in there? He goes, no, you can do whatever. I was like, okay. So what I did is I chose to go home. So I went home and I jumped in the car, man, and fuck, my buzz just went down because I knew what happened. What they were trying to do is get me inside, cancel my visa, and then I don't get to go home. So I rang my lawyer and I said to my lawyer, I said, hey, they've asked me all these questions, what's going on? And I asked the question, did they cancel my visa? He didn't know. So I think he rang up someone and he goes, man, they've just cancelled your visa again. I said, what, in fucking 40 minutes? And he goes, yeah, they've just thing. And I said, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go see my kids because I haven't seen them for ages. And I'm going to just chill out with them. He goes, yeah, you can do what you want to do. Okay, that's up to you. I said, well, I'm not going back there. And I knew what was going to happen. So then I ended up going home, was at a friend's place, and I was there and my kids come home. My kids come home happy, crying. And you know, when I had boys messaging me and going, hey bro, good on you, we're going to come around and have some beers, and I was just like, nah bro. I just had to tell them, I said, fuck, they cancelled my visa again. And I was that happy to see my kids and just tell them that, you know, I wanted to tell them that things were all right. I said we won, you know, and it was hard. I had to tell them. that, they cancelled my visa again. And just that emotion, I don't know if it was happy cries for them or what, but for me it was hard for me because I knew what's going to happen.
Yeah, probably like happy tears, frustrated tears.
It was more, right. It was hard because I knew I just wanted to see my kids and just to see them happy, but in that time. But after that emotion, I just had to say, "Fuck, my visa's been cancelled." I don't know what to do. I just sat there, man, and just said, "Fuck, what do I do?" You know. So I stayed hidden. Not hidden, but at our friend's place for a while. And then I got onto TV1. I got onto the news and I had to talk to them because they sort of heard about what was going on. And I just had to, you know, make a little bit of noise and just let them know what was going on. And but I had to make a decision that I'm not going to hide. You know, I think it was about 10 o'clock at night. Decided to go home, sit there. I knew what was going to happen. And there was a couple of cars floating around. Didn't get much sleep, woke up real early, and then, And then I just sit there, man, and I knew they're coming because went outside and there was cars sitting up on my road. I said, oh, yeah, okay. And then next minute, I think it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, they come around the corner. I could see them running around, see them all on my cameras, shielded up, gunned up. And I actually come to the door and they just doing their normal shit their gang crime do, and just coming in over the top, full effect with their guns pointing at me. My kids were awake at that time. My kids were just, man, they threw me on the ground, pointing guns at me. One of my daughters, jumped over and said my dad's not a bad person. Yeah. And she was only young, you know. It's just that, and the cheekiest thing, man, is like, man, honestly, bro, I don't ride in immigration. I didn't play up. I didn't be a fucker because I wasn't there for that. I was there to get my visa back and stuff. And I call him a bit of a cheeky bastard because I was on the ground and the cops had the gun pointed, and this peanut man, he just goes, oh, here's your visa. You've cancelled your visa again. I was like, man, I've been locked up for nearly 2 years. Never played up, followed the rules, you know, and stuff like that. And you want to come in hard like this and give me that. And that was the thing. You know, picked me up, gave my kids a hug goodbye, and then everything else changed when I went back to detention. Everything was different. I went back there, cops were there, immigration were lined up. They were lined up in this real massive line of when you go into the gate, and they were just all standing there. And I knew half of them. Half the men had their heads down because some of the guards in there didn't know what to do with us. And some of those guards were actually good to us. And they were just shocked that I come back. And I had one of the guards come back. She was crying. And she actually told the guards, what the F are you doing? Why are you treating him like this? You know? And to hear that from this lady, you know, come for a job. And I think it was about six of them threw their jobs, and after that they messaged me a while ago. They threw their job. One of them passed away. She was cool, man. She passed away about 3 years ago of cancer. She was the one that yelled and screamed, why are you treating him like this? He hasn't done anything wrong. It was just it was just different, these guards and how they were working. And and I knew, okay, I've got to sign the papers. I was around my lawyer, and he's like, man, what do we do? And he's like, we can't do anything because they're just going to keep changing it. Every time we fight this, they're going to go, yep, cancel. So I had to sign because I know what's going to happen next.
I'll sign the papers just to leave Australia.
Yeah, leave Australia, because I know what they're going to do. Because what they're going to do is, okay, now the news is out, the media's out, they're going to put me somewhere else. They either send me over to Sydney, send me to Christmas Island, or whatever, you know. Because I stayed in Perth for, it wasn't, you know, not much people stay there, but I got to stay there. And that was actually worse, man. Honestly, detention is worse than prison.
Really? How so? What other surprises? Like you'd never been in jail before this. What is the expectation versus reality for prison and detention?
Well, at least jail, you can go get locked away for the night and things are good.
Okay.
It's 24 hours. Perth detention centre is only small. You know, like I say, I wasn't there to fight people. I wasn't there to start things because that just falls down on us. You know, on one side you got pedophiles on one side, you know, walking around like normal, you know, just thinking, you know, and then you've got all these other people with serious criminal records and stuff like that, and you can see who gets their visas back, and it's real hard to see these fellas get them. I seen a pedophile get his visa back. I'm like, how does that work? You know, here you put him back out on a bridging visa. You put him out there on a bridging visa where no one can get, you know, and here I am sitting, and other people are sitting, getting deported. You know, it was real hard, you know. Honestly, man, when you're in jail, yep, you get locked away, you have that time away. Not at detention centres, man. I've seen people slice themselves. You know, I've been asked by someone, can you help me kill myself? That was the hardest bit, man, and for him to come and say, I can't be deported. I can't because I won't have my kids. You know, I've seen brothers reading you know, on the phone, because you're allowed the phones, but you weren't allowed the film ones, the ones with the cameras. And brothers are sitting there reading stories to their kids, crying and asking them, you know, Dad, when are you coming home? You know, while this is all happening, you know, in the background you've got the refugees that are in there, you know, lighting themselves on fire, you know, to get their visas back. And one of the things mostly was 501s and refugees didn't get on that well, you know. Refugees will use 501s to get their visas back. You know, getting blamed for, I'm not safe here, he's a 501, he wants to get me high, I want my visa back, this and that. And who gets shanghaied to Christmas Island? Not them. Us Kiwis get shanghaied to Christmas Island once again, a place that is not for us. You know, so that is the difference. You know, at least you can go away and have that break. Detentions, man, there's no break, it's 24 hours, you know. And that was then. I don't know what it's like now, but that's what it was back then, you know.
Just in that one answer, Lee, you mentioned some disturbing stuff. You mentioned people slicing themselves, someone setting themselves on fire, someone asking you to help him take his own life. What does that do to a person?
Mentally?
Yeah. How do you get through that?
Like I said, it is hard because there's one reason why I'm there, and that's for me. That's for me to get my visa back, you know. And here I am doing it in this environment, you know. And just seeing people, you know, especially our own people there, you know, doing that stuff. And most of it was to go to, you know, Christmas Island. They didn't want to go to Christmas Island, you know. I can remember one visit, one of my real close mates, man, he wanted to see his daughter, hadn't seen her for ages. Next minute they've sprung it on him. You going to Christmas Island? I said, but I've got to visit my daughter. No, you don't. You're going to Christmas Island. What is that going to do to your mental health? You know, he just turned, you know, walked around the thing, metal bar, and I had to talk to him. He listens all the time, but it was this moment where he just said to me, he goes, bro, I'm not going there. I want to see my daughter. I will just smash anyone, this and that. You know, the mental stuff of how they can just do that, how they can just send our people to an island that was not built for us.
It is. It's torture and torment in a way, isn't it? It's trying to break you.
Yeah, break him, and that's all he wanted to do. All he wanted to do was see his daughter, get to see his daughter before anything else happened, and he didn't get that, and he just flipped. And he was a real humbled person, and that sort of, you know, the well-being of up here, you know, can do that to you, you know. Especially if you've seen your whānau or your kids in there for ages, you know.
The stuff that your kids experienced, like seeing armed cops storming your house and, you know, take you away at gunpoint, is it something you've discussed as a family? Like, what sort of impact did it have on them?
Yeah, we have, you know, the hardest thing for my, you know, obviously my kids, you know, to my wife was they were brought up in Aussie, you know. They did have a good life, you know. Just to see, you know, their dad being treated like that was hard for them. It was hard for them to settle back here in New Zealand because they didn't know New Zealand, you know. So, yeah, it was hard for them. Like I say, we talk about the thing is real funny that a lot of people say that gang members and bikies and people that do bad things, that their kids are going to be bad, their kids are going to turn out like them and stuff like that. Man, I know heaps of brothers out there, man, they've got, you know, kids out there doing great things, you know, playing good sports and stuff like that, you know. When we have those conversations about, oh, your dad's a bikie gang, you know, all this stuff, the kid's going to be bad and this and that, and it's not like that. You know, I see a lot of people, and my kids are doing good things. They've got a good life now, you know, good education. They've had a good education. They're all working and stuff like that, you know. So, yeah. And the funny thing is, Perth is home to my kids, you know. You know, a couple of them are moving back there because that's all they know is they're going to go back there and give it a try. I'm not there to say, man, what the fuck you want to go back there for? Look what they've done, you know. but that's where they want to go back to. So I'm not going to stop that.
Yeah.
You know, end of the day, they can go back there and do what they want to do. You know, so yeah, it was hard for them at that time, you know, and stuff like that. But I think seeing where I'm at today and what I've got through, you know, yeah.
Fuck, mate. I mean, you've made it clear during this chat. This gang, it gave you a lot, but it cost a lot as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Came at a heavy price.
Yeah, it came at a heavy price, but that was me. That was my. I'm not here going to sit here and blame the boys and this and that, because, like I say, they fully supported me. You know, they had my back when I was going through, and all the other boys going through the court system, fighting the fight with us. You know, and stuff like that. You know, it was my decision. I made that decision, and end of the day, that's on me. You know, and yeah.
I think this is something that a lot of people, myself included, like just can't completely understand. You know, it's a thicker relationship than family. It's people that never turn their back on you.
Yeah, and you know, and like it was probably one of the hardest things, because that's all I knew. You know, all I knew was those brothers. Yeah. You know, but like I say, man, mental health, man, really got me. Yeah.
If this part of the podcast got turned into like a little TikTok or something, I can imagine the comments underneath. It'll be like, oh, well, moral of the story, don't join a gang, kids, or play stupid games, win stupid prizes,
100%.
Choose your friends wisely. What would you say?
Oh, I just laugh. You know, we get comments all the time when people, you know, you see it all on social media, you see it in the papers, people are going to put their comments. You know, for me, I really don't care. You know, I'm doing me. It's part of my life, part of my journey. You know, people can say what they want to say, you know, and it's funny too, because end of the day, people will sit on their computers and do all their bullshit comments and that, but they've probably got shit going on in their lives as well.
Mate, everyone has.
No one's perfect. So they can sit there and whatever, you know. A lot, you know, for me, it's at the moment, it's growth now. I've learnt, you know, I've made decisions, you know, I've made bad decisions in my life, and I don't think, you know, joining the brothers that I joined, that it was, you know, a bad decision, you know, because I've seen the brotherhood. But when you're going through what I've been through, and that's all you know, and who you can trust, okay, that's the decision that I made, you know. And like I say, I don't go out, man, and talk club life anymore. You know, 100% I respect you. You got people out there that want to fucking talk shit and, you know, tell whatever you want to tell, and it's like, man, that's not your place anymore, you know. And some of these fellas have probably got booted out and probably on the fucking gear or whatever like that, and blame everyone else, but actually it's your own fault, you know. But you're not in that lifestyle, man. Leave it alone, you know.
You just made a comment there. Is that potentially something you'd get booted out for if you've got an issue with the gear?
Well, it's one of their rules, right, you know, in some of these clubs, you know. And I've seen some boys, but end of the day, that's your decision that you do, hey, you know. But leave it there, you know. Stay out of that world. That's not your world anymore, you know. And that's what I do. My world here now is being a voice for our rangatahi, being a voice for our men that are in the dark times, you know, making those changes, you know. A lot of our rangatahi, and we'll talk about what I do at my job I do now, they're gang families, you know. It's generational. I'm not there to tell them, hey, get out, you know. That's not my job to tell them that. You know, my job is to give them opportunities, make some changes, get them a job wherever they need, you know. We've got a lot of our rangatahi out there that some of their parents are finding it real hard to show up for themselves. If they can't show up for themselves, how are they going to show up for their rangatahi? So that's when we come into that space as youth workers and come in and go, hey, we're here to help you and give you opportunities and give you the tools. And if the parents want the tools too, we'll give them the tools to help them, you know. and not judge, you know.
I promise we're into the really good stuff. One more card, and then I've got a card called Boxing and Purpose.
Yep. Okay, cool, yeah. Cool.
You guys were like, bro, this chance a stitch up. Yeah, we've been going like an hour 20. How are you feeling?
Yeah. No, all good, yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's all good, you know. It's
I've noticed you get emotional a couple of times, eh?
Yeah.
Shows how much you care.
I do, and I thought, you know, I thought it'd be sort of past that, but it does, you know, especially when you talked about the childhood. You know, I sit there with people and go, oh yeah, my childhood, I've done this and remember this and da. You know, for me, I can't remember, you know, fully on my childhood. I can't remember. I can't store things in my head, and it's quite funny because, you know, I don't write stuff down. I can do things, and you know, I've done some big events, and I've never written them down. It just comes out of my head, and I just go with it. And that's one thing I've found real hard. You know, I even talked to my counsellor about it. You know, about dreaming. I don't hardly dream ever. I don't have dreams. You know, when we talk about dreams, people ask me, "What do you dream about?" You know, I was like, "Fuck, I don't know." You know, I don't know what I dream about because I don't dream. You know, but like I say, when people see me in the space and with my rangatahi, people look at me and go, oh, yeah, you're serious, you're grumpy. Yeah, my kids, they come past and whack me on the head and, you know, call me all these names, and I'm laughing with them. But, you know, I think I found who I am. Now I want to be that young fella.
Yeah.
I want to bring the inner boy, the kid I am today that I wasn't when I was 8 years old. You know, and that was from all the hard work I've done to unmask all the hate, all the darkness, all the anger, you know, and stuff like that, and actually find out now I can enjoy myself through these young rangatahi and enjoy being funny and stuff like that, and spending that time with them, enjoying that, because I didn't have that when I was younger.
Yeah, there used to be a massive, I don't know if you remember this may have been when you were in Australia, but there used to be a massive ad campaign here in New Zealand called Break the Cycle. Why is it so hard to break the cycle? Like, I know there's that saying, hurt people. What?
I think sometimes people are scared to break the cycle. Some people think, you know, breaking the cycle is hard. You know, breaking the cycle is weak. You know, I've got brothers out there, man, that have broken massive cycles for themselves. You know,
you have?
Yeah, I have, yeah. And like I say, we talk about making changes in our lives and being a change maker. You know, and that's what we are. We're just trying to make changes in our lives and be, you know, change makers for other people. You know. Yeah.
Oh, kia ora. Yeah. Well, a lot of people would go, well, you know, you didn't like being treated that way when you were young. Like, surely it's easy just to go in the opposite direction, but it's not as simple as that, is it? No. It's very complex.
It is complex. Like I say, we've got so much going on inside ourselves. You know, you've got to dig deep. You've got to look, and you've got to look in that mirror or look at the changes and say to yourself, are you ready? Are you ready to change? You know, some people are just fucking too scared to say that. Do you love yourself? Do you love, you know? Can you look in the mirror and say, fuck, actually, you know? And when I started this journey, when I was in the fucking dark place, when I started obviously the boxing, it was the mirror that changed me. Honestly, bro, it changed me. I looked in there and I've always had people behind me, supporting me, especially the brothers and my friends and this and that. But when we change our life, I looked in that mirror, man, and I just fucking about to hit a bag. I looked in the mirror. The mirror was just in the spot. I looked at it and go, fuck, actually, who the fuck's behind me? There's no one behind me. Who's going to help me? No one's going to help you, bro. Because you know why? Because you can only help yourself. Hey, you look at those things and goes, I can give you all the talks in the world you want, but if you can't do it yourself, no one's going to do it for you. Hey, and that mirror, man, just changed my whole life of perspective of, fuck, who the fuck is with you? Who's going to support you? Who's going to go through here with you? And it's only me, man. I'm going to do it myself, and it's going to be hard. You know, it's going to be a ride. Hey, you know.
Yeah, there's a famous poem, I can't remember it completely, but people can look it up, called The Man in the Mirror, or The Man in the Glass. And it's about, like, when
But it should be my favourite song, Man in the Mirror.
Oh, no, not the MJ.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna make a change. Can feel real different.
Yeah.
No, it's called The Man in the Mirror, or The Man in the Glass, and it just talks about how, like, the person staring back at you knows everything, and you can't lie to that person.
Yeah.
How long were you saying you loved yourself in the mirror before you actually believed it?
It took a few goes, bro. Yeah. It took a few goes. It took a lot of connecting with other brothers, you know, hearing their stories, you know, hearing their changes in their lives, and looking in themselves and saying, man, if we want to make changes, we've got to make changes with ourselves. We can't be out there talking shit when we haven't sorted our own shit out. You know, there's so many people out there that are talking all the stuff, but they haven't actually told themselves that they love themselves, or they haven't found, you know, healing yet, you know, and finding that purpose, and, you know, why. And when we talk to our rangatahi, they can smell shit. They can smell true, you know, or they can smell persons that actually, no, you're actually just talking shit, man. You know, I can see it, you're not real. You know, so, and I learn off all those, you know, I learn off everyone, you know, but being around, you know, there's certain people that I've been around, man. Matt Brown's one of them, you know, Matt Brown. My brother Jordan from Tepuia Foundation, I got him. My brother Dave from the Fallon Show, he's called the Fallon Show. He does the Fresh Start. He's a 501 man. He's just beautiful, you know. We talk about struggles and stuff like that, and I've got heaps of brothers that have shown me the path of, actually, bro, we need to love ourselves first, because if we don't, we can't carry on with this journey of change. Yeah. You know?
So you end up giving up the fight in Australia and surrendering. Then what happens? Are you allowed to leave with your family on your own free will? Or
nah, I got escorted back. Yeah, I had a couple of guards. They escorted me back.
Right. With other 501s? Or?
Nah, I come back on the plane by myself.
Right. Just you and
just me and two guards.
Are you cuffed on the plane, or are you not cuffed?
Nah, they were actually all right, actually.
Because I saw some footage on the news here, I don't know, in between you being deported and now, and that looked like Con Air.
Yeah.
like just a bunch of Kiwis being sort of marched onto the
you know,
plane.
looking there, man, I think that was just more of a look at me, look at us, you know. And
a flex.
Pretty much a flex, you know. And for me, I come back and I had to go through the fucking system, you know. They were really treating me as, you're going to have conditions, you're going to do this and that. I'm pretty much like, fuck I am. I'm not doing that. Because end of the day, I've never been to jail. I don't have a criminal record. You know, just because I'm, you know, club affiliated, that you're going to give me these rules. You know, so I stood there for about half an hour to an hour telling these fellas they want to do all these big searches. I said, see you later, you can't do that. So I got to walk out, you know.
So, and then what? What does day one in New Zealand look like?
Day one, for me, it was a little bit different because media was here. You know, a lot of people wanted to hear the story, and I told them the story, but first day was, you know, I was in the club, so a couple of boys picked me up.
Is there a Rebels motorcycle club in New Zealand? Or like a chapter here?
There is. They're worldwide, but at the end of the day, like I say, I've been away from that lifestyle for so long, so you know, my focus is not on what happens in New Zealand with the clubs anymore. So I focus on the stuff that I do now. Like I say, I got out 7 days. They gave me 7 days and $500 to survive for 2 weeks. You know, so I used the 2 weeks up, and then I went back down to Christchurch, close to my family. My family was still over in Aussie trying to get rid of their stuff, and you know, and getting them sorted. So I had to come back to reality, and haven't been working for 2 years, so it was pretty hard. Get back into that. I just wanted to get back into work, you know, get all that and get my family back, and then, you know, try to get back into club life. But like I say, my mental health was wasn't in a good place.
So you go pretty much straight back to Blenheim?
No, I went to Christchurch first.
Christchurch,
yeah,
yep.
went there because my dad and my family there.
Yep.
So I went back there for a while and hung out there for a while.
Did you manage to find a job reasonably quickly as a carpet layer?
Oh man, I went to Christchurch. Luckily I had a couple mates down there that wanted to work, but I had to sign up for job seekers or the benefit or whatever it was. Man, that was hard for me to do because I've worked most of my life. And I went in there and I could still remember the fella, man, like no wonder some of our 501s get pissed off when they come back here. They get looked down on, looked down upon and stuff like that. I was just sitting there with this fella, pink shirt on, hoity-toity, and he's sort of talking down to me like, I didn't have any qualifications, and he said, you're back here, what's your thing, and what do you want to do when you get back here? And I said, actually, I'm only coming here because the lady that was beside me through PARS said I had to come and sign up for the benefit just because to get some money behind me. And he asked me what I'd done. I said, I'm a qualified carpet layer. And then his whole attitude changed, thinking, you have a trade behind you, this and that, So his whole attitude changed on who I was and what I do,
he just assumed you were
like a bludger. He assumed, 501, coming back to this and that. It's just the way he held himself, and making people feel uncomfortable. And so I just, said, I'm here, this lady wants me to get on the benefit, I'm actually a carpet layer, and I think I got one payment from the benefit, and my mate helped me out, I started carpet laying again. So I was only in Christchurch for 3 months, and I had to go. I went back to Blenheim because Blenheim is my hometown. People know me, and the situation I was in, but I went back to Blenheim, man, and everyone was focused on me because, Rebel coming back to Blenheim, he's going to take over Blenheim and start all this fucking bullshit up, and I wasn't even thinking with that, I was worried about getting my family back, getting work, and no one would give me work. Like, I knew a lot of people there, but it was real hard. But one of my mates, they had shown me how to carpet lay. He reached out to me, I reached out to him, even though I had a fallout with him, and I asked him, hey bro, have you got a job for me? And he goes, yeah, part-time job. And I thought his part-time job would be like 3 days a week, but it wasn't. It was 5 days. And to this day, man, he's been one of my biggest supporters.
Why did he give you a second chance?
He knew me as Lee. He didn't know me as Lee, the rebel, the deportee, the bad person that everyone wants to call. He knew me as that. A lot of people in Blenheim knew me as that, They didn't look at that and go, oh yeah, Lee, he's a rebel and he's this and that,
Is it hard finding people that can see past the exterior?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, But that's why I went back to Blenheim. Yeah. I know walks of life back there, And if it wasn't for my mate, I don't know where or what I would be doing. I don't even know if I'd still be here.
Yeah, because your mental health deteriorated when you moved back to New Zealand. What did stop you from taking your own life?
My daughter. Yeah, 2 of my daughters actually. Man, I was that close on just fuck it, Depression got me real bad. It was a real thing because I lost a lot of weight and stuff like that, and some when you get some of the boys questioning you about, oh bro, you're on the fucking meth, you lost so much weight and this and that. It wasn't that. It was the stress of my life. It was coming back home, doing club life, my family, my mum's sick, just trying to focus and coming back to my trauma, coming back to where my trauma happened, my abuse that I didn't sort out when I left, just all hit me because I went home and I took my kids around for where I used to live, showing my kids that we've had a good life, but this is where I'm brought up from. This is where some of my mates are still and their kids are. Yeah. We're not. We come home. We don't fucking judge people or where they come from, and I think that hit me. Going past the house that I got abused at, and looked at it and going, "Fuck, man! I haven't even sorted my shit out. I haven't even. I've come back. I've got all the shit pile on me, and in my darkest times, man, I just said to myself, I said, fuck, I don't want to be here anymore. It's way easier just to fucking walk away. But then I just realised that, my ex-partner, she rang me up and said, hey, your daughter's in hospital. I said, hey, And at that moment, you know, my oldest was going through some shit, and, you know, I could talk to her and let her know that I love her and this and that. But when you get a phone call and your daughter is sitting there and she just goes, Dad, I don't want to be here. And I'm just looking at my fucking self going, what the fuck, man? I don't want to be here either. I don't want my life. It's easy just to go and just leave you to it. And I think that was the moment, bro, that, fuck, this is a wake-up call, man. This is a fucking call where, fuck, your kids need you, your daughter needs you. And I just felt this thing where, man, okay, I'm going to take my life, but what am I doing? Fuck, what I'm doing is I'm leaving the pain with my kids. I'm leaving the pain with my grandkids. You know, I had 3 grandkids, I think it was, or two grandkids, I think, yeah, 2 grandkids. And honestly, bro, I've got 5 now, and another one on the way. There's 6 grandkids that I can fucking get to see. I get to see them grow. I get to see my kids grow. I get them to see them achieve what they are, and I get to see, you know, what my dream is really about. And my dream is now where I'm at now. I get to see it, bro. And it was my daughter. If that moment didn't happen, I reckon like I say, bro, I reckon I wouldn't be here, because there was a sign to say, actually, fuck that, I need you. I need you here so I can enjoy my life too, but I want you to enjoy it with me. I want you to see us grow and see my grandkids grow. So, yeah.
You get to see all of that. They get to see you become the man that you can be, and you get to see you reach your full potential as well. It's wins all round. What would you say to anyone that's listening to this or watching this that's in that dark corner right now? What would your advice be to them?
Just to say, fuck, I'm here. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen. I'm here for you to tell me, fuck, what's going on, bro? What's going on? And some of that stuff, bro, is, fuck, I had a shit day at work. You know, or I got upset at the kids, or I've done something wrong. Like, okay, I've gone through the court system again. I've fucking failed. I've fucked up again. No, you haven't, bro. You just made a little mistake. If that's all that is, bro, it can be fixed. You know, we run into these walls of, you know, they're only fucking roadblocks. You know, how do we get around it? You know, a lot of our people just need someone to fucking talk to, let it out, and all they want you to do is just listen. And all you can say to them is, goes, bro, I hear you, bro. I hear your conversations. You know, I know what you're going through. I've been through there, but there's a purpose why you're here. There's a reason why you're here. And I always tell men, my reason is because my kids were going through their dark times. My reason here, my purpose here now is to be a voice for our rangatahi, for our men that sit in those dark places, for our community, you know. And that's what, you know, that's why our brothers are going through some dark times, you know, because they feel weak. They feel like no one wants to fucking listen. But actually we do, you know. And let them know that, hey, today might be a bad day, but when you wake up, my bro, hey, you're woken up, you're here still. There's a reason why you're here, you know. And it's just catching them at the moment. Some brothers, you know, sometimes, and we talk about those dark times, bro. We talk about suicide. You know, suicide is a hard thing because it'll take anyone. You know, it doesn't care who it takes. It's how we talk about it and stuff like that. People talk about, you can't talk about suicide because they just go and do it. It's like, well, nah, because at the end of the day, we need conversations on it. You know, we need to have those talks and ask them, bro, why the fuck are you going through them? You know? And I found out the hard way, bro. I've lost a mate while I was in detention, a real good mate of mine. At those times when I was in detention, I had a shit day. And I said to my bro, come and visit me. I said, hey, bro, I'm just having a shit day, man. Like, I really don't want any visitors. And it was real hard because he was looking forward to the visit. And then the next day, I get a phone call and he took his life. But the thing was, he was still alive. Like, he was on the machine. His mum found him, and 2 young kids found him found him hanging and just round the corner from his house. So Mum heard all the screaming, so she's come out, and I really feel for her because she had to witness this. This fella, man, he was a G. He was young. I met him in jail. He was one of my cellmates, and he was gangster. Like, he was only young. And at those moments where I was like, fuck, those thoughts were going, man, what if, bro, I said, come and see me, what do you want to talk to me about? And I heard it was over a girl, and I was like, I would have just said to him, hey, bro, don't worry about that, my bro, But it's hard because we think that was going to help him and get him through that, but it didn't. I got to say goodbye to him. The guards let me go say goodbye to him. It was real hard because I see Mum and I just see my bro there, and I whispered in his ear, and I apologised. It took me ages to get over that, but I realised that when I start learning more about suicide, it's actually, we can't sit here and say the what ifs. And then that was that side of it. Then a couple of years ago, I had another good mate of mine here in Blenheim pass away. I got him on the other side. He reached out. He attempted it once, and I helped him. He come to me and he just said, bro, I don't want to be here. I said, yeah, bro, I want you here because I love you, bro. There's a reason why you're here. And he goes, okay. So I got him in that right space, happy, working again. And we were supposed to do a short film together. We got invited to do a short film together. I remember I went away for a few days, and I checked up on him once, and the next 2 days I was busy, and I come back, and then we had the first film shoot on, I think it was on a Friday, and I messaged him and said, hey bro, where are you? You're not here. We've got the film shoot. We're all excited because it's about two gangsters doing a drug deal. He was left that world too, so they want us to do the short film and be that person. I was like, man, we're all excited to do it with him because I asked him to come and do it with me. And then 1 o'clock, man, I got this phone call, and the phone call was, hey bro, you've heard about Coda? I said, no, is he all good? Where is he? He goes, oh nah bro, he's not here. I said, what? He goes, nah, he's taken his life. In that moment, bro, it was just like, once again, the triggers of the what ifs. But I got him in that place of happiness. I got him into the place where, fuck bro, you're all good. And it's real hard to understand that okay, I got one brother that went because he, I didn't talk to him and he was in a real bad place. But then another brother where, fuck, we thought we fixed him. We thought we got him into that happy place. But, suicide took him, and just like that, eh?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, eh? 'Cause it is always the individual's decision, and it's tough. And I say to people, you just got to hang on to live in the moment, hang on to hope, hope that the next moment's going to be better, because it's a permanent solution to what is always a temporary problem. Yeah. It's tough. You don't still hold yourself responsible? Nah, because I've learnt. You can't. I can't. I had to let that go and actually think to myself and have people around me that are in that space to say, it's one of those topics that is hard. We can't sit there and blame ourselves and sit there and say, oh, we're out here to save the world, because we're not, So I learnt on both sides of that. So we're at the point of the story now where you're back in Blenheim, you're trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild your life. This is when you uncouple from the rebels, the gang, because it's just not serving your mental health anymore. And you discover boxing as well. You hang up a bag. Yeah, hang up a bag, yeah. Why? What made you do that? Boxing's changed your life. Yeah, boxing saved my life, man. Boxing has given me opportunities of being here and doing what I do. I'd done a bit of boxing over in Aussie. Had a couple of amateur fights, nothing flash, but I wanted to give it a go. Was around certain people that were in that boxing game, and before I got deported, we had this plan of starting our own boxing gym with a good. He's like a father figure to me, and we're always going to call it Box on Boxing. The reason why we call it Box on Boxing, because end of the day, whatever we go through in life,
the shit that we get put on us, and we go into those real deep places, is that actually we can carry on with life. We can smash through the wall, and we can still box on. And it just clicked. And I told my mate that, you know, I am going to start something up with boxing. When it was, or whenever it was going to happen. And I think that was the moment where, this is the time where, man, I'm going to hang that bag up. I'm going to let shit out. I'm going to get me out of the dark, let my emotions out, and just let all the anger and stuff out. And that's when hitting the bag, seeing the fucking mirror, sitting there and looking at the mirror and saying to myself and goes, fuck, man, the only way we're going to get out of here is we're going to get out by ourselves, because there's no one behind you that's going to help you. You know, where's all the brothers and the friends and that's so cool that want to be with you? They're not there because, you know, they've got other shit going on in their lives. But I'm gonna pull myself, and that's what I created. And after I left the club, I just had a few people reach out and say, hey, my kids are going through a bit of bullying, mental health, stuff like that. And that was just like, man, I'm going through that. And that's when I started my journey of my mental health, and it helped me. You know, help me talk about me and what I was going through, but listening to other kids going through it as well. And that's how I started with two nerdy kids that were nerds, but they were just getting bullied at school, and that just started me off on. It grew out of my garage, man. Like, I'm just one of those garage stories where, hang up a boxing bag, let's help some people and go from there, and it just grew.
And there's a woman sitting in the office right at the moment called Maxine Sweeney. She's, from what I can gather, another one of these people that believed in you when no one else did. How did your paths cross, and what sort of impact did she have on you?
Oh man, she doesn't like me talking about her. She doesn't like the recognition. We always have arguments and stuff like that. She's been the backbone of creating Box On, you know, as well. She's been in the back. She's been in the times where, man, need to make some decisions, and I've been through board members, you know, because I'm a charitable organisation. Who would have thought that a 501 gang member would create a space, you know, for a charitable organisation to help others. So she come in the picture. So what had happened is, we had another friend, she was a youth worker, and she just asked me, you know, you want to come down and have a look at the youth centre? And I was like, have a look at it. Took me a while, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go down there and I'm just going to walk past and have a look. So I walked past, and then I went back again, and then I walked in, and Maxine and another brother of ours, Sunny, was sitting there, and don't know, something just clicked, you know, something just thing about, you know, why I'm here. So we just started talking, and she wanted to know my story, told her a little bit about it, and stuff like that, and we just clicked. And then I hung around for a while. You know, I had to, you know, let the rangatei know who I was and stuff like that. And then something happened. I think it was, I can't even remember, man. I think it might have been 2020 or so. I don't know what it was. An incident happened in Blenheim. I was just about to start my youth work, and an incident happened, and it was real hard because it was, you know, obviously people I knew, but it was my start of my journey of being a youth worker. Once again, bang, the door got closed. Once again, I'm here, I want to change my life. I found out what I want to do, and it stopped, and the program didn't happen. Maxine and my other bro, Sonny, had to tell me, give me the bad news, say, hey, we can't do the program because of, you know, your stuff that you used to do, this and that. And I said, man, this is the right time to bring this in. This is the right time to bring me in here and show our rangatahi and that the choices we make in life can destroy someone's life just like that, and someone else's. So, done that. And then it wasn't goodbye. It was, that's cool. I'm going to go reset myself and do my stuff. And then I got my own boxing gym. It was only a small one, and then Maxine reached out again and went behind work and stuff like that. She just knew something was up. She knew there was something good there, and she just stuck behind me all the time. And then each time I just had to keep proving to people that I have changed. Heaps of people, police, people in the community, he's still doing the same thing. He's using that as a recruitment thing. He's wants to patch up people in this. But I was on a journey of change, so I already left the club, so I still had those things. But she stood there and said, I can see something. So she came onto my board, and then I just started learning youth work, learning how to be a proper youth worker, the way to show up for our youth, and show up for them and let them know that I'm here and stuff like that. And it was voluntary. My first year was voluntary. So I had to prove in the background too, to prove to the trust that I'm working for now, that I have changed. Even though you said you can't come in this space anymore, I still said I'm going to still work with youth. If it's not with youth, I'll do it at my boxing gym, I'll do it in the community. But I had Maxine in the background showing me, teaching me youth stuff. Because youth work, bro, everyone wants to be a youth worker, but it's not as easy as what they think it is, man. It's hard, man. And when you're dealing with, different diversity of kids and stuff like that. And that was my thing of growing box on boxing. It turned into, okay, we need to start putting policies, procedures, we need to start doing this and that. And she's just been a massive backbone of youth work and stuff like that.
God, the world needs more Maxine Sweeneys, eh? People that just have that, if you look for the good in someone or look for the bad in someone, you'll find it either way.
Yeah, you do.
Anybody, absolutely anybody. It seems like I'm getting emotional thinking about Maxine.
You do, yeah. And
how does it make you feel that she didn't know you, but she still had your back and she fought for you?
Yeah, and never takes any credibility of what Box On's about either. Yeah, okay, it's my dream, my organisation, but end of the day, the people in the background believe in you and stuff like that. It's you have our families in that backing up, but you have a person like that that just wants to believe in you and what you do. And I've met a lot of youth workers, man. I've met some real good youth workers, but she is the knees bees of youth work and what it's about and how to approach it and stuff like. We have our arguments, we have our moments, we have blow-ups, but she's taught me to, okay, we're going to have a blow-up, but we're going to go away, we're going to walk away, because it's going to, just seriously, just think up, okay, and when I first started, I was like, okay, if you this and that, and fuck, you don't know me, you don't know anything, and she's actually taught me that sometimes I'm a father to these youth. Sometimes the way I come across is actually we can't be that person, we can't be sometimes we can't be that father figure for these kids. We've got to come on another approach. So I've learnt so much from her in that space and where I am today. And building my team that I have now, I've been through so many people, man, friends, family, people that say I'm there for you, this and that. And don't get me wrong, like I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them as well, because end of the day they helped me, build it, but they went in for the right stuff that I was in it for. Yeah. And now my board and my committee are policemen, social worker, OT, a real good accountant, a real good, just got a real estate person on business. Old friend of mine, he's just watching my stuff, and he's come home and he's just like, man, I need to jump on this. And then hopefully my friend, help me off work, he's going to jump on. And then I've got another young fella, he's a Māori. He come to me 2-3 years ago, 150 kilos, mental health, didn't want to be here, stuff like that. And now he's 90 kilos, working for the council, doing some real good stuff for our people back home. And he wants to jump on and create a safe space for us. So, she's pretty cool. You know, we like I say, we have our moments. We have our moments, but we teach each other that we've got to keep ourselves accountable, and we've got to come back and actually talk about it. Don't just fucking get all thing and then not talk about it, and sort it out. So, yeah.
Oh, good on her for putting your neck on the line when she didn't have to.
Yeah.
The easiest thing would have just been to say, oh, hey guys, I think this guy Lee's all right, he seems legit. And then you reach a roadblock and it's too hard, and then you retreat. And she just never retreated.
No, didn't retreat. Just keep battling the battle, you know.
What are there any sort of standout success stories from Box on Boxing?
There's heaps, bro.
Yeah.
These heaps, man. These, getting people jobs, creating a space where our kids are coming and they're getting bullied, the self-confidence is down. Boxing's not all about being violent. Boxing's not all about being the toughest and stuff like that. For me, we're community-based. We're all about giving people opportunities to have a go at boxing, to see where it can take them. We get people that can't even throw a skipping rope. I can't throw a skipping rope. I said, "Bitch, you can." No, I can't. Man, one throw of the skipping rope, and you achieve it, and you say, "There you go, you've done it." This is not just kids, this is adults as well. And the smile you see from them going, actually, okay, I did do it. So it's we've had some big successes in our gym of our young fellas going away in the real world. Some of them can't read and write. Now they've got jobs, driving, travelling the world. One of my young fellas has just come back. He's travelled the whole world, and he came back and gave me a big, massive hug, and he said, "Hey, bro, I'm really thankful of you. I'm thankful of you and the team for giving me opportunities that I didn't have." They come from a real wealthy family too, but he's travelled the world and stuff like that. So, yeah.
What's the future for Box on Boxing? Like, where do you see it in 5 years, 10 years time?
Oh man, everyone asks me. We always change because it always changes. We have these big things. I want Box on Boxing. Our little dream is youth centre. Sports together. So that's obviously I do a lot of stuff for Mobile Youth Trust. Mobile Youth Trust is the company I work for, the charitable organisation I work for. I want us together. We're collabing together. I really want to put them together, and then after that I want transitional housing for our rangatahi. Everyone says it's going to be hard. It's hard work, but I believe getting those three put together, where transitional housing for our rangatahi is, we've got a lot of couch surfers. So all I want is a place where they can sit. It's not there to live, it's there to sit there, instead of going around in circles and enjoying life with their friends and living at their friends' house, because their friends are going to get sick of them. It's actually asking them what's going on, what's happening at home, why are you doing this, let's get the services and the wraparounds you need, and put them there, and then move them on to better things, and like I say, that's one of our massive things in Blenheim at the moment is homelessness for our rangatahi. People will sit there and say,
really?
Yeah, people will sit there and go, well, we don't see it. I said, of course you're not going to see it, because you're not deep in the conversations, you're not deep in the well-being of these rangatahi. We see it all the time, we hear it all the time, Couch surfing is homelessness. Couch surfing doesn't have a home, We're going around their friends and stuff like that. So that's the bigger part for me for that. Doing programs as well, running programs and stuff like that there. So, part of Box on Boxing too, I run a men's group too. My men's group's called Ka Kōrero Ngā Tāne. Ka Kōrero Ngā Tāne is about men speaking up. A lot of our men reach out and don't talk about their triggers, their traumas. A lot of it's abuse as well, sexual abuse. I get a lot of people messaging and say, man, when you told your story and open up, about what you've been through, I I want that as well. But I tell them that, the first thing you've got to do is come through that door, talk about it, let it out, and have those conversations, So that men's group I run there, and I run a free class on a Thursday night for my boxing from 7 to 8, and that class is for all men that are walking around Blenheim, coming home from work, about to have an argument with their missus at home, or something's going on at home, to come to the gym, have a hit on the bag, have a hit on the pads, let those emotions out, have the conversations like, fuck bro, why are we blowing up for? What's going on in the real world? Come into box on, have the conversations, let all your shit go on that bag and leave it there. Don't take it home and stuff like that. And then find out what supports they need. Get them the supports they need. Put them onto the right people, and just guide them and walk alongside them.
Vulnerability is really hard. I can't imagine how difficult it is and how much courage it takes some of these guys to walk through that door for the first time.
Yeah, and some of them walk through that door and go, man, that fellow over there, man, fuck, he's throwing some mean punches and fuck, he's skipping far out the gate. I was like, and all the sparring, it's like, man, far, I can't even throw a punch. They say all that. So I said, actually, he said the same thing as you just said. Yeah. You're saying exactly what that fellow or that girl over there just said. They said, man, that guy over there or that kid over there, fuck, they can throw some punches, eh? Yeah, they didn't know how to do that when they first come in. They said the same thing. They want to know what's behind the door. What behind the door is the same version as what you are now. And they've just grown and they've just shown themselves and they've showed up for themselves. That's one of the hardest bits too. Man, you need to show up for yourself, man. You need to show up and do it, Once you get past that bit and unravel all that shit that's going on in your world and underneath you, and a lot of them are scared to make the mistakes, so a lot of them are scared, fuck, I fucked up, I've gone back to court, I've had a beer, I've had a puff, I'm a failure, I'm a piece of shit, no one's going to think me, hey bro, I'm going to walk with you, bro, I'm going to walk with you and we're going to carry on, even though you've made that mistake, get you back on the walker, bro, and keep going. And that's like our rangatahi. When I started youth work, there's a lot of cars going missing, people taking cars and a couple of ram raids and that, It's changed in Blenheim, Okay, ram raids first, popping cars, serious crime. What are they, going back a couple now, what are you here for? Oh, stealing. What are you stealing? Food. Because you can't survive, Don't look at the negatives too, because at the end of the day, when we first come to court, they finished their plans, but remember they were on 24-hour lockdown, bracelet, popping cars, serious crime. What are they here for now? Stealing food. Okay, they're back here, but look at the positives they have made. They made the changes of those, So a lot of our rangatahi now are off their plans and stuff. We're getting a new lot of them coming through, different kids coming through too. So it's been a youth work is how we change the way our youth are. We deal with troubled youth, gang youth, special needs. We've got the queer group we deal with. We've got a debating class now, which is pretty cool. But working with all these different diversity of kids, and everyone asks us, how do you work with them? I said, how do we work with them? They're humans. They are the same as the person beside you, and that's why I have mirrors in the gym. A lot of people want to have mirrors and want to be all flash and, hey, look at me, I'm pretty, which some do, But for me, it's for our rangatahi to look in the mirror and get them to stand beside each other and look at each other and go, what do you see in the mirror? Oh, I see a short person, I see a fat person, I see a brown person, I see a person over there with glasses, And then they ask me, what do you see? I see a human being, a rangatahi that wants a safe place to be, but just wants to be part of something. I don't see colour, I don't see geek, I don't see colour, I don't see ethnic, race colours or anything like that. I don't see all that stuff. I see you as the person beside you as a human. we've got to stop looking at the way our appearances are. We've got to stop judging people on that and the way they talk and that. It's actually what comes out of the heart. And when you have a kid that's brought up in the system to a kid that's real good on the computer and that can be a nerd, to have those two together and have conversations on the different worlds and they collide together, you'll be surprised that the person that's got everything, got all these expectations to be the lawyers and this and that, to a kid that's been going through hard life, and that kid that's achieved so much, they want a normal life, and that normal life has been what the kid that's been in trouble, that's like a normal life for them, They think it's going to be fun and stuff like that, but end of the day, it's our kids that have got that high life, they want all the pressures on achieving that, so...
There's lots of analogies between boxing and life. Like, you get knocked down, you've got to get up again, all sorts of things. If your life was a boxing fight, what round would you be at now, do you think?
Don't know if the rounds will probably keep going for a while. I've had a couple of, and honestly, bro, I've had, I think, I've had my... We have these times and people look at me and go, fuck, bro, you've done so good for yourself. You're at this place where nothing can happen to you. Nothing can put you back in the dark. And I really want to say that I was in the dark last year. I fucking went in the dark. And I haven't really talked about this. And, I had an incident in my gym a couple of years ago. And it's real hard to talk about because everyone has had their fucking talk on it. When I had this incident, it was a punch up in my gym, and it was a learning curve for me because I was away getting the tools from a men's group that I needed to bring back to Blenheim. It was a trust thing, and for people to sit there and say, you condoned it, you knew it was there, you knew it was fucking happening, you organised it, you were behind the camera, this and that. They didn't look at the positives on it. Yeah, okay, it was gang related, but I never shut the door, They've apologised, and it's something that I've been wanting to talk to for a while. And when you go through those dark times where when that happens, everyone wants to jump all over you. Everyone wants to just go, yeah, fuck, we got him. He's not doing good. He's not doing the good things. Yeah, what I'm doing is that door's open for everyone. I don't care what background. It was a trust issue. It was a learning. And one of those things is that they come to me and they apologised. And to this day, they still apologise. Yeah. They still say, and I still have their kids coming in. And I watch them and I see them and the stuff that they are doing now for themselves, is I see, man, as a change in the way they are. They still do their club stuff, but I see the positive. I see the healing wailangas that they do, and I still have their kids come into my gym, and I still work with their kids. A video did come out, and for me at that time, I had a lot of pressure on me, and when media come and attack you and just make up their own bullshit story, they needed to know the truth that I wasn't involved with it. It was a learning thing, but what it was is that you fucking put that out. It's the kids that we deal with that are going to see it. I wanted, and some of those people that were in it, they all had good jobs. It was that moment where people were like, fuck them anyway. Don't worry about it. No, I tried my hardest to stop that from coming out because I knew that they've got families in that as well, and stuff like that. And it was real hard. Last year was a real quiet year for me, but I had to, I front-footed it. I still, in the community, people just ask me the questions on that, were you there, did you know? And I was like, man, if you guys just come to me first and ask me, instead of fucking hearing all the rumours and that, I would have told you,
What was it exactly?
It was a punch-up.
And people listening to this will go, it's a boxing gym.
It's a box, and that's the thing. Like the article came out and it backfired on, and it was real hard because it was all about who wanted to bring it out, to make me look bad. It was just the opportunity, okay, another boxing gym out of Blenheim, going to close, need your doors closed so they can get all the benefits, they can get all the stuff, and it was a jealousy thing. When people come to me and tell me that, hey, certain people are trying to make a story off on that article that come out, they want you closed down, and that's that tall poppy syndrome. We've got to learn about tall poppy syndrome. When we're doing so good, there's those people that want to bring you down, because they try to set those things as well. And it was real hard because everyone got on top of it, and we fought it, and we'd done the procedures and stuff like that, and people were just making their own stories. And for me, the best thing is that I still had all my sponsors behind me. I fixed all my policies up. I had all those people that believed in me and said to me and knew that wasn't my fault. It was a learning thing, and I've learned from it. But the doors aren't closed. Yeah. My doors are still open to any walk of life that wants to come through. And that, for me, honestly, if there was another gym in Blenheim, they probably wouldn't have got through this. But I needed to show them that, I'm still going to show up for our community. I'm going to still be a voice and let people know the truth about what happened in that gym, and still let those people and work with those people to come in that gym, So, like I say, my whole board's changed now, The police officer, he's cool, he works with our youth, and to have him on my board is a massive thing for me. I've always had that thing against police officers and that, but because I'm dealing with people, I had to change my life. Yeah. And to have him there, he had to go right to the top, to have that in my gym is a massive achievement for me and the board members that I have. So we talk about going through those bad times. I got it last year, but I didn't give up, and I didn't go into the dark place. I had the right people around me to watch me and say, hey bro, are you okay? I had brothers reaching out and saying, bro, you're okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. And those chickens, bro, that's all we're looking for is chickens. Yeah. So that was my time, and things are going good now. Got a lot of people behind us. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, adversity's never nice when you're going through it, but everyone is going to go through it at some point. Yeah. But one silver lining to adversity is you definitely find out who your real friends are. Yeah. The Maxine Sweeneys of the world, and you find out who is not there for you and doesn't have you back with good intentions.
And that's family as well. Yeah. People, obviously people want to show, the video or whatever it was that they wanted to show, but they didn't come to me. Instead they just pointing fingers and go, yeah, you done that, we're doing the same shit. But I know what happens when you deal with these sort of people, but we don't leave them behind. I'm not shutting the door, and the positive of that most of those fellas that were in there, they are doing good things. People look, the fucking gang members, they ain't doing jack shit. Well, they are, because I'm watching and I can see them, and every time I see them, they're always saying, hey bro, still sorry about it. And I was like, it's all good, it's past, and it's going to pop up now and then, but that's tall poppy syndrome for you when people do that, eh?
We're sort of getting to the point where we're wrapping up the podcast, and you brought this up, and you've talked about this for quite a while, so clearly it's had a huge impact on you. I did quite a bit of research. I didn't come. Was this a big local story?
Nah, it was through the Herald and that. Yeah, right. But it's gone now. It'll pop up. But the thing is, I needed to talk about it. I needed to let people know that, when we're doing the stuff that we're in, that and the people we deal with, sometimes it's going to happen. Especially in the boxing world. Yeah. There's a lot going on, in the boxing world, but for me, I keep myself accountable, and I put the right policies and procedures, and I've got the right people around me now so that it doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, I'm here, and I'm not shutting the door. I'm not going to shut the door and say, no, none of you fellas can come in. I've got all different walks of life coming in the gym now, man. I've got, people on bracelets, ex-gang members, that want to come in there and play. You wouldn't even know that they are, Police officers, I've got everyone coming to my gym. When you mix them all together, we're not there to judge. There's one reason why they're there for, and that's just to have a good hit out and let some shit out on the bags and that, and have conversations in there as well, you know.
Are you happy today? Is today a good day?
Today's a good day, except for except for the rental. Nah.
When you think, can you pinpoint when you've been your happiest in life?
There's so many, you know. Honestly, bro, there's so many. You know, I'm just happy I'm alive, bro. I'm happy I'm breathing. I know when I have a shit day, that the next day is going to be a new day, and I know that the next day is going to be different, you know, and just to know that we are making changes, you know, I'm making changes in our community, you know. I know that I can, you know, I'm happy, you know, I'm that person now, man, that for me, a purpose for me is a youth worker, a mentor. Maxine doesn't like me using mentor, so I'm going to change that. A youth worker, a voice, and a change maker for our brothers out there. You know, I've had a few wahine reach out to me and say, hey, you need to start this up in Aotearoa. No disrespect. For a male to come into that space and do that stuff, you know, have all that, it's not my place to do that, you know, because they have different emotions and they have different things going on in their lives. So, you know, it's one of those things where I know, you know, a lot of wahine around New Zealand are doing things, so I usually just pass them on to the, you know, most of it's just chat groups. I mean, just checking in, making sure, hey, I've had, you know, my ka kōrero ngā tāne has a chat group where we want to tap in and just say, hey bro, are you alright, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of men's groups happening around New Zealand too, and you know, hopefully there's more opening up as well, and those men's group, all walks of life, you know. We can sit there and say, oh, it's only for the week, but it's not. It's for everyone that wants to open up and just have that space there, you know. And a lot of club members and gang members are doing it too. I see what they're doing, you know, and to watch them making changes, like we say, they are making changes. Some of them are not going to change, but hey, that's life. But I do see it, and from my little incident I had at the gym, man, those brothers there are changed, and they are changing and making some positive moves, and it's real good to see.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I'm proud of myself, man. You know, I'm proud of where I'm at today. I'm proud of who I am. You know, I've found that inner boy of who I am. I'm enjoying life. Yeah, no, I'm definitely proud. You know, I sometimes I'm a little bit hard on myself, and you know, don't take credit for what I do. But at the end of the day, I just look at it as, you know, I'm just here to awhi and help others to make changes in their lives, but be there to listen as well, and see where I can help and support them, you know, and stuff like that. So it's been a ride. Like, I've met some real cool people on my journey, bro. Like, you know, I'm still me though. I'm not out there after the follows, the likes, this and that. You know, I just want to be like some of the other brothers and be a change maker in our community and be a voice for our rangatahi. So, yeah, no, I am proud, bro, and I love who I am as a person. And looking inside myself and say, actually, you know, I love you, bro. I love you, Lee. You've done good. So, yeah.
Lee Tepuia, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having us, bro. It's a real privilege to come in here and just do this and open up a little bit more of my journey, and you know, a couple of things that I've opened up I haven't really talked about, but I needed to, and I think if I want to move forward, this is the moment for me to do that, to move on and make those changes, more changes in my life. So, like I said, bro, that incident and talking about the drugs and that's been a big thing for me, you know, to open up and stuff like that. So, but yeah, thanks for having us on, Dom, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
I appreciate you sharing, Lee. It's been really nice to meet you, mate.
Cool.
Yeah, all the best.
Awesome, bro. Thank you, bro.